Okay, so we're live on Facebook.
Yay!
Yay, we're here. Well, thank you again for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to help me put this together and share your techniques with my audience, many of whom have been activists or are activists, and of course, many Americans and other people around the world who are emotionally affected, not only by the pandemic, but also by the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
And, you know, having experienced your techniques and your teachings already myself, I know how valuable they are in emotional release. And I would like to hear maybe a little bit from you about why and how these things work.
Okay, before that, I just want to say that I have been an activist pretty much my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to say that to qualify myself to be saying anything about what we're going to talk about.
Awesome.
So, and Michael more recently, but he's like adamantly active. So it's good. So emotional release techniques, what are they and why are they so important? There's a variety of them. There are 7 tools that are taught in the ISTA trainings, International School of Temple Arts. And then there's a whole bunch that I've been using before I ever knew about ISTA. And then there's a bunch that Michael and I practice together. So why do we speak about them? Because people can get carried away on an emotion, which may have come from an interpretation of something. Right or wrong interpretation, I'm not going to judge, but sometimes people get carried by an emotion and that leads them to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do. And at a time like this, one, because people are facing totally the unknown in the pandemic, which is relaxing a little bit, but it's still very unknown. People are still very frightened. So there's an overall carpet of fear. And on top of the fear, we're again in racial conflict in the United States, which like a double whammy. How this all happened and who needed it, if you ask me, we didn't, but we are. And that's more of a known. For people of color, it's known that their lives don't matter as much in the United States, that they're racially profiled all the time. And then there's a whole bunch of people who aren't African American, but are waking up to the fact that this is enough. So people's emotions are heightened. On top of fear, there's rage, there's more fear, there's helplessness, there's hopelessness.
I just want to interject really quickly on and just mention that it's not that their lives don't matter. It's the simple perception, right? It's people's perceptions that lead them to these conclusions, and their perceptions are skewed in yoga. And I know that you're studied and practice and teach Tantra. We have the third eye, and when the third eye is not clear, we don't see the divine in all beings, and that results in things like racial conflict and judgment based on skin color and prejudice. That, along with potentially some older traumas that are stored in the body as well.
I actually like to go as far as saying that racism is a nasty habit passed down through generations and learned like a knee-jerk reaction from relatives, from environments, from what have you. And it's a nasty habit that's worth breaking. Yeah.
It's a system worth deconstructing.
Yeah, it's so much. And the third eye, and seeing the divine in all beings.
Yeah, and I want to add to what Laurie's talking about, the emotions that are disrupted and upset, and really it's our nervous systems. I mean, in an all-out assault on our nervous systems right now, which is coming from all these different areas of life, and we're back again to what had never went away. And I think right now we're in a place where we can actually start to make some change, and it's going to be coupled with the ability to think clearly in the moment.
which is exactly why we're having this conversation. So if we practice emotional release work, or emotional clearing as it's often called, then we are not at the effect of the emotions gone wild. Like, we can have our emotions, we should have our emotions. Emotions are very important. They inform us of whether we're at risk or in danger. So they inform us of whether we need to fight or flight, fight or run. And when we don't practice release, like as a practice on a regular basis, like yoga as a practice, then the emotions then carry us. They have us, they take us, and they may take us to some actions or to saying some things that later we have to clean up or that we didn't mean. They might even put us in compromising positions where we would risk our life, not necessarily intentionally. There are things worth risking your life for. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, do you want to do it riding on an emotion, or do you want to do it, what Michael said, really clear-headed, well thought out, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah. I mean, the reality is that when we, if you're protesting, if you're in the streets, and you've got all this rage in you, right? It's very hard to hear your voice. And so what I'm advocating here is being able to remove the rage so that we can hear your voice. And I'm protesting, and I want people to hear my voice as clearly as they possibly can without the charge, right? The extra added rage that comes with it. Like,
it comes with cortisol.
To be clear-headed is really important. It could save your life.
Can I ask just a quick question, just to sort of flip the perspective on that? Say, for instance, someone encounters someone who's feeling a lot of rage, which is entirely justifiable during these times, right? Not everyone knows how to handle their emotions in healthy ways yet. And you're going to encounter a lot of that in protests. You're going to encounter a lot of it just in your day-to-day life, potentially for quite some time right now, whether it's on whether it's overt or covert, people are going to be dealing with a lot of underlying tension and emotions. Maybe do you guys have some tips on how you might listen to someone who's in pain without telling them that they can do better, or forcing them, or expecting them to change in that moment, right? So how do we sort of make space for that to clear as a way of affecting change, and then moving into the processes?
NVC.
Nonviolent communication.
Yeah, NVC, exactly.
If somebody was really angry and they were approaching me, I would actually say, I hear you. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
I hear you. Is there anything else? I hear you. Is there anything else? I would say that over and over again until they were emptied. Now, I wouldn't do that if somebody was swinging a bat at me. Right. That's different. But if somebody were simply, coming at me with a lot of force and a lot of rage, then I would get quieter in myself, and then I would keep asking them for more until they had emptied the supply.
From a place of compassion, right?
Yeah.
And an attempt to actually understand, not to just let them talk so you can dismiss them, not like some sort of going through the motions, but actually receiving. I
also might say, I hear you. I might mirror back when there was an opening. I might mirror back to them. I hear you saying this. I hear you saying this. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Like, I would want it all so that I could get to the bottom of it with them. And if I show that I'm listening, usually they calm down. That's been my experience with that.
They're able to feel seen and heard and connected, and therefore they don't feel like everything has to come up violently anymore, because they feel safe, probably. Yeah. And respected.
It's a very simple way to de-escalate that level of rage and anger in another person, because really they're another person. This is another human being who's processing their emotions out loud. So being able to hear them say what they got to say, even with the rage charge behind it, you can easily, like I said, de-escalate and diffuse a very potentially violent situation.
Yeah. Great. And I feel like that's the ultimate goal all around is just to create loving and peaceful space for everybody to coexist, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that person's system, their entire system is completely turned upside down. And you can tell in their voice, you can tell in the way they're shaking, you can tell in the way they're being, that this is very upsetting, not only to their mental processes, emotions, but their full system. Everything about their humanity right now is in that moment is being assaulted. Yeah. And so the best way to do that nonviolent communication, if people don't know what that is, I recommend they look it up. It's also known as NVC.
Absolutely. I'll post a link to that.
There's a great book on it. There's many writings about it. There's many teachers who teach it.
YouTube, go on YouTube and look it up. It's really good information. It'll help you.
So
excellent.
We're really in favor of people having as clear a head and as clear an emotional space as possible when they make their stand in this time of life right now. We're interested in people being clear and being able to think clearly and respond clearly to whatever is coming up for them, whatever may be coming their way. And it's the same thing. We were saying this for weeks already, 8 weeks, 10 weeks during the coronavirus fear. And now on top of it, having tense racial relations in the United States and demonstrations in other places around the world. It's especially a place where demonstrators could be imprisoned and like with no questions asked immediately. It's important for people to have their wits about them. So emotional release is probably one of the biggest tools that we could talk about and offer them. And as a matter of fact, we'll offer you a link to bioenergetic emotional release that you can post after this, where I'm doing a demo of it and people can see how to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's only one. I mean, as I said, there are many tools for it, but one is this one. It's a very powerful one.
Would you like to, Laurie, would you like to demonstrate something, like one technique now?
We could demonstrate a hand scream. What do you want to do? Yoga boxing?
Well, here's what I think you should do. Go ahead and demonstrate the hand scream, and I'll go ahead and post the link for us right now.
Okay. I'm going to demonstrate hand scream, taking off my rings, because I was demonstrating this on a festival last week, and I popped myself in the lip, and I gave myself a bloody lip, myself.
Ouch.
Yeah. I said, oh my God, I busted my lip.
Oh my God.
So how you do hand screaming is you place one hand on top of the other. This is from the ISTA group of tools. You place one hand on top of the other. You don't interlace them. You just put one palm on top of the other. Then you put your hands over your mouth and you yell into your hands. You press really hard. You yell into your hands and you have to shake. So I'm going to lower this for a second so you can see my torso. Or you can also see my mic. Hold on a minute. Move this out of the way. Okay. So it's done like this. You breathe in. So you shake your middle section at the same time as you hand scream. Now, if you're in a place where you can't make sound, you can do it silently like this. All right, so no sound comes out with that. And that is one that just in the moment releases some emotions you can't say. Maybe you're in a situation where you can't get to say what you really want to say. And there's frustration building up, so you just scream it out. Why you wiggle your torso is because most of the emotions are in the belly, in the sex area, and in survival, which is your anus. So the three lower chakras in the yogic system are the places where these feelings come up from. And so when we wiggle like that and then do the hand scream, the wiggling loosens them up to be able to come out the mouth and release them. And, you know, a lot of times when people have a feeling that's very powerful like that, they try to analyze themselves. Well, why did I have that feeling? And was I right to have that feeling? And should I not, or should I have had that feeling? Michael and I recommend not to process yourself and not to process anybody else, like not to analyze and overthink yourself about whether you should have the feeling, whether you have the right to have the feeling. If you have the feeling, you have the feeling.
There's a reason for it. There's always yeah.
And you don't need to know the reason. The reasoning is totally not important to release and then calmly express. So you don't even need to know the reason. All you need to know is pay attention to the sensations in the body, to the physicalness of the body, and then let them come out the mouth.
And so you'll do these practices until you feel at relative ease then within your body.
Till you feel like you've regained an ease. And I mean, some of them are back feelings, like they're feelings from the past that didn't get expressed, or for oppressions that happened or trespasses that happened. And those are important. That's why we say this is a practice. It's important to release those so that they don't affect the current situation. Like the present is present. It's not the past. So it's really important to release things from the past so that we can respond now rather than act. Want to come back in?
Yes, thank you.
And here's Michael.
Hello. Welcome back. Thank you.
He posted the bioenergetic emotional release in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. You guys are such a great team.
Chat or in the thread.
Yeah, in the thread.
I'm like, we're spending so much time online now. I don't know where we are.
You don't know which platform you're on. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Right now it looks like we're in Iceland, but we're really
totally.
Where are we?
I want to be where you guys are. It looks great.
Me too.
Oh, wonderful. Well,
anything else? Like,
I mean,
to say here.
I could definitely ask another question or two. Just what comes up for me right now is that, okay, so once people get through emotional release and they feel like they've released the past, what about the present moment? What about the harsh reality that people are facing in the present moment when they're dealing with things like racism or rioting, or we may not see those every day, but some people see them every day, right? And do you recommend hand screaming on a daily basis?
Yes.
Moment by moment.
As activists, you're also both activists. What kind of constructive things can we do? Like the release of rage and anger is absolutely necessary to maintain a healthy body, healthy mind, healthy emotional body. But what about systemically, because we don't want to just release and say, okay, let's just carry on our merry little ways, because then, I don't know, are things changing just because we're changing? Like where? I'd
like to answer that.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm like, really? I don't know. I wish things had changed already.
Yeah. And there was a time when things looked like they changed.
Yeah.
In the 60s and 70s.
On the day Obama got elected, I thought things had changed. I was naive enough. I actually was naive enough to think like there's been a big shift. And so
So in answer to your question, I think that hand screaming is really important. The link that I just put up is an instructional by Laurie. It's really pretty short, but it takes you through how to do a practice every single day that will allow you to move these emotions, whether you know where they came from or not. If it was the past, if it's right now, it doesn't really matter. What you do is you create this practice. So this is a practice that Laurie and I do pretty much on a regular basis, meaning every day. And we call it hitting the floor. And you'll see inside that video, part of the action is to do this. And we put on music like Rage Against the Machine and all of that. Now that doesn't, once we're done with that.
Their sales have probably gone up since we've been.
Yeah, Unfuck the World, Prophets of Rage. So I happen to like gangster rap. So that's not gangster rap. I'm just saying I happen to like gangster rap, which is separate.
Okay.
So once you've done that and you're clear-headed, then what you can do is you can start to look at what are my options? Like, what do I do now? And one of the things that we're doing is we're engaging with Sean King. I don't know if you know him. He's a leader in the Black community. He's one of the many leaders in the Black community. Black Lives Matter. We want to talk to people about how to take this particular practice and make sure that before you go into public and you're protesting, which I desperately want to do. I'm looking for the next one that comes up in Phoenix. And that is to actually be going in clear-headed. And then when you come out, if you experience trauma, you can use it to release all the anger and bitterness that came during the event. So it's both sides of it you can actually use it for. And make sure that you're taking action. The only way that you can look yourself in the mirror, right, is if you take that rage and turn it into action.
Yeah. And I think, I guess, if I would add on to that, I know I posed the question, I just want to add on to the answer there because something came to me.
Great.
It's important to have a safe space to process these emotions so that we can go out into the public and we can be clear-headed and effective in change then.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
So, sort of that dynamic.
Well, in the 60s and 70s, before we went to a march and a protest, they used to say, don't wear earrings, don't wear necklaces, don't wear anything that the police or somebody can grab you by. They can pull your ear off, or they can pull your neck off with your necklace, like different things. Just to prepare us on how to go to a protest. And we're adding this because we think that this is just as important as that. Like, your emotions could endanger your life unwittingly. And even not through the outward expression, but the suppression of the emotional body can also cause disease that can actually cause physical illness. Just on a holistic level, we have to take care of all things. Exactly.
In this culture, it's common. I mean, it's ordinary to stuff your emotions. It's ordinary to just take it and stuff it and stuff it and stuff it
until you explode.
Or you have the other part where people say, well, you just let it go, right? And where does it go when you let it go? I say it goes into this bag that you got over your shoulder, and you're carrying this fucking bag everywhere with you. And until you deal with it, you're going to carry the bag or you're going to stuff it.
We say that's a spiritual bypass, by the way. When people tell you to just let it go, you should be enlightened enough to let it go. We think that's a spiritual bypass.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's
just let it go.
It's very much necessary to point that out, especially right now. Yeah.
The important thing is to deal with it, and
for sure.
All you really need are tools on how. Like, the question becomes, well, if I deal with it, how? Like, how do I deal with it? Exactly. That's why we give you these tools.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing your tools. I feel that many people just simply don't have access to tools. They're not even aware most of the time that they exist, and they don't know where to go to find them. So I hope that this reaches some people who are, who are open and will benefit from that. And I thank you very much for sharing.
Exactly. And they're welcome to get in touch with us. Also, we have others. We have some videotapes of others, and people, if they have questions about it, they're welcome to write to us.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You can reach Laurie at lauriehandlers.com.
Okay.
And just send her an email, and she actually responds to you.
I actually respond.
Unlike lots of people.
It may take me a day or so because I'm super busy, but I will respond. I'm not the kind of person that doesn't respond to people who want.
I can vouch for that.
That's right.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. We made things happen. Wonderful. Any last words before we finish up?
I like your last words, honey. Why don't you tell me?
My last words?
You always have the best last words.
Well, I usually say pleasure is your birthright. It is, and so this also helps you to take in the pleasure that is your birthright. But I guess for today's broadcast, we want to say Black Lives Matter.
That's right. Black Lives Matter.
So
thank you.
Yeah,
she is good with last words.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you both very, very much. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care. Have a great day, and take very good care. Thank you.
We promise. Bye.
Bye-bye.